The tow truck's chains scraped against asphalt as Sarah reached for the baby monitor in her bag, but the screen showed more than just her sleeping daughter. It showed a woman in a bright vest rifling through her glove compartment, pulling out registration papers, and smiling at something else she found. Sarah's breath caught. That wasn't just a tow. That was something far worse. Sarah Mendoza's hands shook as she gripped the steering wheel, her 2-year-old daughter Luna finally, asleep in the car seat behind her. The afternoon sun beat down on the community pool parking lot, turning the black asphalt into a shimmering heat trap. Sarah had been circling for 20 minutes, late for her shift at the hospital because Luna's daycare had called with another fever scare that turned out to be nothing. "Please, please, please," she whispered, spotting a space near the back fence. Not ideal far from the pool entrance, but it would have to do. She'd already missed 2 shifts this month because of childcare issues. One more and her supervisor had made it clear there would be consequences. She pulled in quickly, the parking lines barely visible beneath a layer of dust and sun-faded paint. The spot sat at an odd angle, slightly overlapping what looked like it might have once been marked as a fire lane, though the red paint had worn away to almost nothing. Sarah hesitated, checking her phone. 12 minutes to get across town and clock in. Luna stirred, making that pre-waking whimper that meant Sarah had maybe 5 minutes before full meltdown mode. "It's fine," she told herself, grabbing her purse and the baby monitor base unit. "It's just for a few hours." She cracked the windows carefully, not too much, just enough for air circulation, and activated the baby monitor. The new model she'd splurged on had a camera, temperature sensor, and would alert her phone if anything changed. Luna was safe. The car was locked. Everything would be fine. Sarah kissed her daughter's sweaty forehead and ran. Denise Kowalski had been a tow truck driver for 6 years, but she'd been working angles for twice that long. The legitimate part of her business, the contracts with apartment complexes and shopping centers, barely paid the bills. The other part, the part she never put in writing, kept her afloat. She spotted the silver Honda Civic the moment she turned into the Meadowbrook community pool lot. Wrong angle, creeping into what used to be a fire zone. Technically towable, even if the paint was mostly gone. But that wasn't what interested Denise. It was the purse sitting on the passenger seat, the laptop bag visible through the rear window, and something else, the unmistakable shape of a car seat with a child in it. Denise pulled her truck alongside, her vest reading authorized parking enforcement in official-looking letters. She took her time, documenting the violation with her phone, making everything look proper. She'd learned years ago that the key to a good scam was confidence and paperwork. Make it look legitimate, and people rarely questioned anything. She approached the Civic, peering through the driver's window. The kid was out cold, strapped into an expensive-looking car seat. The purse was even better than she'd thought, leather designer probably containing credit cards and ID. The laptop bag made her smile. And there on the dashboard, a hospital employee badge with a photo ID clipped to the visor. "Sarah Mendoza, RN," Denise read aloud. "St. Mary's Medical Center." She glanced around the parking lot. Sunday afternoon, most families inside at the pool. The few cars nearby were empty. The security camera near the pool entrance was aimed at the gate, not the lot. Perfect. Denise tried the door handles, locked as expected. But she'd been doing this long enough to know that most people hid spare keys somewhere on their vehicle. She ran her fingers along the wheel wells, under the bumpers, inside the exhaust pipe. Nothing. She stood back, reassessing. The kid complicated things. She couldn't just hook up and tow with a child inside that crossed even her flexible moral lines. But she also couldn't leave behind a score this good. The purse alone would have cash, cards she could use within the hour. The laptop probably had information she could sell, and if the hospital badge gave her access to the employee areas. Denise made her decision. She pulled out her slim gym, technically illegal for her to possess, but incredibly useful, and began working it into the door frame. 30 seconds later, the lock popped. The interior smelled like baby wipes and stress. Denise grabbed the purse first, rifling through it quickly. Wallet with 3 credit cards, $200 in cash, keys, phone charger, and jackpot, a small spiral notebook with what looked like passwords and account numbers written inside. Sloppy security, but Denise wasn't complaining. She snatched the laptop bag next, setting both on the ground outside the car. The hospital badge she pocketed separately. You never knew when medical center access might come in handy. The kid stirred but didn't wake. Denise froze, suddenly aware of how bad this would look if anyone saw her. She wasn't just towing a car anymore, she was stealing from a vehicle with a child inside. That was kidnapping-adjacent territory. That was real prison time. But the kid settled and greed overrode caution. Denise reached for the glove compartment, hopping for more documents she could use. Registration, insurance, maybe even. Her hand closed on something unexpected. A small black device, warm to the touch, with a glowing green light. Denise pulled it out, frowning. It looked like one of those baby monitors, the fancy kind with cameras. She turned it over, noting the model number and the base unit label on the bottom. Which meant there was a camera somewhere, probably in the car seat. Probably recording. Denise's stomach dropped. She looked up slowly, following the angle from where she'd found the base unit. There, mounted on the headrest of the car seat, angled to show both the baby and a wide view of the front seat. A small camera, its red recording light barely visible in the afternoon sun. Shit, Denise breathed. But the damage was done. The camera had already captured her breaking in, rifling through the purse, pocketing items. The question was, who was watching? Were these monitors live streaming or just recording for later? Denise's mind raced. She could take the camera, destroy the evidence, but if it was already uploaded to the cloud somewhere, she could leave everything and run, but her truck was right there, license plate visible. She could. The base unit in her hand buzzed. A notification light pulsed blue. Someone was watching, right now. Sarah's phone exploded with alerts the moment she stepped into St. Mary's employee entrance. Temperature spike, motion detected, connection alert. Her blood turned to ice. She yanked out her phone, pulling up the baby monitor app as she ran back toward the parking lot exit. The video feed loaded in choppy segments. Hospital Wi-Fi was terrible near the entrance, but what she saw made her stop dead. A woman in a tow truck vest, inside her car, holding Sarah's purse. No, Sarah whispered. No, no, no. She watched, frozen, as the woman on her screen pawed through her belongings, pocketing her wallet, reached for her laptop bag, grabbed her hospital badge. And then, the woman found the baby monitor base unit and looked directly into the camera. Their eyes met through the screen. The woman's expression shifted from confident to panicked in an instant. Sarah was already running, her fingers dialing 911 as she burst through the employee entrance and sprinted toward her car. 7 minutes away. Luna was 7 minutes away with a criminal who just realized she'd been caught. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's breaking into my car, Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. My daughter's inside. She's only 2. I'm at the Meadowbrook Community Pool, silver Honda Civic. There's a tow truck. Ma'am, slow down. Your daughter is in the car currently being broken into. Yes, I can see it happening right now on her baby monitor. The woman is stealing my things. She opened my car. My baby is right there. Sarah could hear the dispatcher's fingers flying across a keyboard. Units are being dispatched now. Are you at the location? I'm coming from St. Mary's. I'm maybe 6 minutes away, please. Ma'am, do not approach the vehicle. Let the police. Sarah hung up. She was done with procedures and protocols. That was her daughter, her baby. And some woman was in her car, caught red-handed, probably desperate and unpredictable now that she knew she'd been recorded. Sarah ran faster than she'd ever run in her life, her nurse's shoes pounding against concrete, her lungs burning, her phone clutched in her sweaty hand with the video feed still playing. The woman on screen was moving frantically now, grabbing items, looking around, clearly trying to decide what to do. And then Luna woke up. Sarah heard her daughter's cry through the phone's speaker, that particular wail that meant confused and scared. She watched the woman in the vest freeze, turn toward the car seat, her face cycling through emotions Sarah couldn't read from this distance. Don't you touch her, Sarah hissed at the screen, even though she knew the woman couldn't hear her. Don't you dare touch my baby. The woman reached toward Luna. Sarah's vision went red. She pushed herself into a full sprint, her phone bouncing in her hand, the video feed showing the woman's hand getting closer to Luna's car seat, closer to the buckles, like she was trying to, what? Take her out, move her, kidnap her. I'm coming, baby, Sarah gasped. Mommy's coming. Behind her, sirens began to wail. Denise's hands trembled as Luna's cries filled the car. The baby's face was scrunched and red, her little fists waving in distress. Through the car's speakers, Denise could hear a woman's voice, distant, breathless, desperate. "Don't you touch her. I'm calling the police right now. I can see everything." The mother, watching, probably recording. Denise had maybe 3 minutes before this situation went from bad to catastrophic. She could run, leave the purse, the laptop, everything, and hope her face wasn't clear enough on the camera. But her truck was right there, VIN number and license plate visible. And she'd already touched everything inside the car. Her fingerprints were all over this crime scene. Or she could do something insane. Something that would either save her or bury her completely. Denise made her choice. She leaned into the car, reaching for Luna's car seat, and started unbuckling the straps. Hey, it's okay, sweetie," she said, her voice shaking but trying to sound soothing. "It's okay, you're okay." Luna's cries intensified. Denise pulled her from the car seat, and the little girl immediately arched her back, twisting away from this stranger who smelled wrong and felt wrong. Denise had no experience with kids, had actively avoided them her entire life, but desperation made her try. SHH, I'm just..." Denise looked directly at the camera, her face fully visible now. "I'm just checking on her. The car was getting hot. I was worried about the baby." It was a pathetic lie, and she knew it. But maybe if she could spin this right, make it look like she'd been trying to help rather than rob. She cradled Luna awkwardly, the toddler still crying, and grabbed a blanket from the car seat. "See, I'm making sure she's okay. I was going to call." Her own phone rang. Denise nearly dropped Luna. She juggled the screaming child to one hip and pulled out her phone. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered, "Hello." "Put my daughter down and step away from the car." The mother's voice was ice and fire simultaneously. Denise could hear breathing, footsteps, the sounds of someone running. The car was hot, I thought. I watched you break into my car. I watched you steal my purse, my laptop, my hospital badge. I have you on video, and the police are already on their way. So you have exactly two choices. You can put my daughter down gently, step away from the vehicle, and wait for the cops, or you can make this worse." Denise looked around the parking lot. Still mostly empty, but she could see movement near the pool entrance now, people looking over, probably hearing Luna's cries. And in the distance, getting louder, sirens. "How far are you?" Denise asked, adding how her voice cracked. "Close enough, put her down." If I just walk away right now." "You're not walking away. You're on camera breaking into a car with a child inside. You're already going to jail. The only question is whether you go for theft or something much, much worse. So put my daughter down, now." Luna's cries had shifted to that hiccuping sob that broke through even Denise's panic. She looked down at the little girl, really looked at her for the first time. Chubby cheeks streaked with tears, dark curls plastered to her forehead with sweat, eyes squeezed shut in misery. Denise thought about her own childhood, the times her mother's boyfriends had scared her, the times she'd cried and no one came, the slow, grinding years that had led her to this parking lot, this moment, this choice. She gently set Luna back in her car seat. The baby's cries reached a crescendo, but Denise forced herself to buckle her back in with shaking hands. Safe. Secure. "I'm backing away," Denise said into her phone. A silver Honda Accord screeched into the parking lot entrance, going way too fast. Not the Civic. This was someone else's car, but the woman who burst out of it was clearly Luna's mother. She was younger than Denise expected, mid-20s maybe, with her dark hair falling out of a ponytail and her scrubs disheveled from running. Sarah Mendoza covered the distance to her car in seconds, her face contorted with rage and relief. She shouldered past Denise, reaching into the car to unbuckle Luna, pulling her daughter out and clutching her to her chest. "SHH, baby, mommy's here, I've got you," Sarah murmured, her voice breaking. Luna's cries softened immediately, recognizing her mother's smell, her voice, her touch. Sarah turned to face Denise, Luna on her hip, and the look in her eyes could have melted steel. "Don't move." Two police cruisers pulled into the lot, sirens wailing. Denise watched them approach, feeling like she was watching her life end in slow motion. She should run. She should have run 5 minutes ago, but her legs felt welded to the asphalt. Officers emerged from both vehicles, hands on their weapons, assessing the situation. Sarah started talking immediately, her words tumbling over each other. "That's her, that's the woman who broke into my car. I have it all on video. The baby monitor camera recorded everything." She used a slim gym to get the lock open. She stole my purse and laptop and hospital badge. And then she tried to take my daughter. I didn't try to take her, Denise interrupted, her voice high and desperate. The car was hot. I was checking on her. I was going to call you. You're a liar. Sarah's voice cut through Denise's protests like a scalpel. You were robbing me. You didn't even know Luna was in the car until you'd already broken in and started stealing my things. The video shows everything. One of the officers, a woman with sergeant stripes and a no-nonsense expression, approached Denise. Ma'am, I need you to put your hands on your head and turn around. I'm a tow truck driver, Denise said, hearing the desperation in her own voice. I'm authorized to be here. I was just... Authorized by who? The sergeant asked. Denise opened her mouth, closed it. She had no authorization. The vest was something she'd ordered online. The parking enforcement credentials were fake. Turn around now. Denise complied, feeling the cold metal of handcuffs close around her wrists. The sergeant recited Miranda rights in a bored monotone, words Denise had heard on TV 100 times but never thought would apply to her. The second officer was talking to Sarah, who was still clutching Luna but had pulled out her phone. I can send you the video right now, she was saying. It uploads automatically to the cloud. You'll see everything, her breaking in, going through my things, taking my wallet. We'll need that for evidence, the officer said, taking down Sarah's information. And we'll need to process the vehicle, dust for prints. I have to get to work, Sarah said, then laughed bitterly. God, I'm probably already fired. I was late and now this. Ma'am, I think under the circumstances, your employer will understand. But Sarah's face suggested she knew better. She'd already been on thin ice. This would be the final straw, job market be damned. Denise watched this realization play across Sarah's features and felt a stab of guilt so sharp it almost felt physical. What were you planning to do? Sarah asked suddenly, turning to face Denise. With my credit cards, my ID, were you going to steal my identity, max out my cards, what? Denise stared at the ground. I don't know. You don't know? Sarah's voice rose. You broke into my car, you stole my things, you touched my daughter, and you don't know what you were planning. I needed money, Denise said quietly. It sounded pathetic even to her own ears. I'm 3 months behind on rent, my truck's about to be repossessed, I needed money. So you decided to rob a nurse? Sarah's laugh was harsh. You think I'm rich? You think any of us are rich? I'm working 60-hour weeks just to keep Luna in daycare while I can't afford a better one. My student loans are crushing me. I drive a 10-year-old Honda with a check engine light that I can't afford to fix. And you decided I was your target. The sergeant put a hand on Sarah's shoulder. Ma'am, let's get you and your daughter checked out by paramedics, make sure everything's okay. We're fine, Sarah said, but her voice wavered. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving shock in its wake. God, what if I hadn't had the monitor? What if I hadn't been watching? What if? But you were, the officer said gently. And your daughter is safe, that's what matters. But Sarah's eyes were locked on Denise, and there was something in her expression beyond anger now. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. Like she was seeing not just a criminal, but a human being who'd made catastrophically bad choices. How did you end up here? Sarah asked quietly. Like this. Denise's throat tightened. Does it matter? Maybe not to the court, but it matters to me. Because I look at you and I see someone who could have been me if a few things had gone differently, if I hadn't gotten the scholarship, if my mom hadn't pushed me to finish school, if I'd made different choices when things got hard. Sarah shifted Luna to her other hip. So I'm asking, how? The sergeant looked like she wanted to interrupt this impromptu therapy session, but something in Sarah's tone made her pause. Denise's words came slowly, painfully. I dropped out of high school when my mom got sick, needed to work. By the time she died, I was 23 with no degree, no skills, nothing but debt. The tow truck business was supposed to be legitimate. It was at first. But then the economy tanked and the contracts dried up and I started finding other ways to make ends meet. You mean stealing? Yeah, I mean stealing. Denise met Sarah's eyes. I'm not asking for sympathy. I know what I did. I know what I am. What you did, Sarah corrected. What you are is someone who's going to spend the next several years thinking about this choice. Because that video, it's going to the DA, it's going to court, and everyone is going to see exactly who you are and what you did. Denise felt the full weight of that reality settle over her. Not just the arrest, but everything that would follow, the trial, the conviction, prison. And after that, when she got out, a record that would follow her forever. No job, no apartment, nothing. "I'm sorry," Denise whispered. It was inadequate, meaningless, but it was all she had. "I'm sorry about your daughter. I'm sorry about everything." Sarah studied her for a long moment. Then she turned to the sergeant. "I want to press charges, full charges, everything you can throw at her." The sergeant nodded. "Given the circumstances, breaking and entering, theft, child endangerment, she's looking at significant time, especially with video evidence." "Good," Sarah said, but her voice cracked on the word. She clutched Luna tighter, burying her face in her daughter's hair. "Get her away from us." The sergeant guided Denise toward the patrol car. As Denise folded herself into the backseat, she caught one last glimpse of Sarah standing in the parking lot, holding her daughter, her shoulders shaking with sobs she'd been holding back. The patrol car door slammed shut. Through the window, Denise watched Sarah sink to the ground, still clutching Luna, finally letting the terror and relief and rage pour out of her. And Denise understood, with perfect clarity, exactly how much she'd destroyed in her desperate grab for easy money. Not just Sarah's sense of safety. Not just Luna's innocent afternoon nap, but any chance Denise might have had at redemption, at rebuilding something legitimate, at becoming someone who didn't prey on struggling mothers in parking lots. As the patrol car pulled away, Denise closed her eyes. The video would tell the whole story, her face, her actions, her choices. There would be no talking her way out of this one, no angle to work, no scam to run. For the first time in years, Denise was out of moves. The interrogation room at the Meadowbrook police station smelled like old coffee and industrial cleaner. Denise sat in a plastic chair that dug into her spine, her wrists still marked with red lines from the handcuffs. Across from her, Detective Marcus Webb studied the laptop screen with an expression that grew more grim with each passing moment. "So," he said finally, looking up, "want to tell me what we're watching here?" Denise knew exactly what he was watching. The baby monitor footage had been uploaded automatically to Sarah's account, time-stamped and geotagged. Crystal clear video of Denise using her Slim Jim. Denise rifling through Sarah's purse. Denise pocketing the wallet, the phone, the hospital badge. Denise's face, clear as day, looking directly into the camera when she realized she'd been caught. "I want a lawyer," Denise said. "Smart," Webb closed the laptop. "You're going to need a good one. Breaking and entering, grand theft, possession of burglary tools, child endangerment." "I didn't endanger the kid. I made sure she was safe." "After you broke into a car where she was sleeping, after you stole her mother's belongings while she was 3 feet away." Webb leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen, Ms. Kowalski. The DA is going to look at this video and she's going to see a slam-dunk case. You're on camera committing multiple felonies. We found the stolen items in your possession, the purse under your truck, the laptop bag on your passenger seat. Your fingerprints are all over the victim's vehicle. I told you I want a lawyer. And you'll get one. Public defender will be here in a few hours." Webb stood, gathering his files. "Use that time to think real hard about what kind of deal you might want to make, because right now, you're looking at 8 to 10 years, maybe more depending on what else we find." "What else?" Denise's voice came out sharper than she intended. Webb smiled without warmth. "We're going through your truck now, your phone records, your bank accounts. See, the thing about cameras is they're everywhere these days. Parking lots, storefronts, doorbell cameras. And once we start looking, we tend to find patterns, other victims, other thefts. Other times you played parking enforcement officer and helped yourself to whatever looked valuable." Denise's stomach dropped. She'd been doing this for 2 years. Dozens of cars, maybe more, she hadn't kept count. Each one had felt like an isolated incident, a victimless crime. People had insurance, didn't they? But now, seeing it through Webb's eyes, seeing the systematic nature of it. "I'm not saying another word without a lawyer." "That's your right." Webb walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, the mom, Sarah Mendoza, she's sitting in the victim services room right now, missing work she can't afford to miss, filling out paperwork for a trial that's going to drag through court for months. Her daughter's going to need therapy because you traumatized her. And Ms. Mendoza, she's got to live with the knowledge that she left her kid alone for 5 minutes and almost lost everything." He shook his head. "So yeah, get a good lawyer. You're going to need it." The door closed with a hollow clang. Denise sat alone in the interrogation room, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, and tried not to think about what Webb had said about patterns, about other victims, about systematic theft. Because if they started looking, really looking, they'd find all of it. The log she kept in her apartment. The burner phone she used to fence stolen electronics. The storage unit where she kept items she hadn't sold yet. She was so screwed. In the victim services room down the hall, Sarah filled out her third form in an hour, Luna asleep in a makeshift bed of chairs pushed together. A victim advocate named Patricia sat across from her, patient and kind in a way that made Sarah want to scream. "I know this is difficult," Patricia said, "but the more detailed you can be about the items taken, the better chance we have of recovery and restitution." Sarah's hand cramped around the pen. Wallet contained approximately $200 cash, 3 credit cards, Chase Visa, Bank of America MasterCard, Discover, driver's license, insurance cards, photos of Luna, library card, coffee shop loyalty cards. She laughed bitterly. The loyalty cards probably have more value than the bank accounts they're tied to. And the laptop. 5-year-old Dell had all my nursing school notes on it, my resume, applications for better positions I've been trying to find time to apply for. Sarah's vision blurred. My hospital badge, which means I can't even go back to work until they issue a new one, which takes 3 days, which means I'm missing shifts I can't afford to miss. Patricia made sympathetic noises. The hospital should be understanding given the circumstances. Should be, Sarah set down the pen. But my supervisor's already documented 2 missed shifts this month. Hospital policy is 3 strikes. This makes 3. They can't fire you for being the victim of a crime. They can fire me for missing shifts. They don't have to give a reason. Sarah looked down at Luna, whose face was finally peaceful in sleep. I need this job. My ex doesn't pay child support, hasn't in over a year. I'm drowning in student loans. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment that's barely big enough for us and costs 2/3 of my paycheck. And now I don't have a wallet or a laptop or the time to replace any of it. The defendant will likely be ordered to pay restitution. With what money you saw her? She drives a reprobate tow truck and steals from people in parking lots. I'm never seeing a dime. Sarah's voice cracked. I'm not angry about the money. I mean I am, but that's not. She touched my daughter. She was in my car with my baby. What if Luna had woken up screaming? What if she'd heard her trying to keep her quiet? What if? But she didn't, Patricia said gently. Your daughter is safe. This time, because I happened to have a baby monitor with a camera, because I happened to check my phone at exactly the right moment, because of luck. Sarah wiped her eyes roughly. What about next time? What about the next parking lot, the next 5 minutes I'm not watching? How am I supposed to trust anything now? Patricia didn't have an answer for that. Nobody did. A knock at the door interrupted them. Detective Webb stuck his head in. Ms. Mendoza, do you have a few minutes? There's something you should know. Sarah followed him to a small office, carrying Luna carefully. Webb gestured to a chair and pulled up several files on his computer. We've been going through Ms. Kowalski's truck and phone records, he said. We found some things. Several items that match descriptions from other theft reports over the past 2 years. Jewelry, electronics, documents, and photos on her phone, pictures of license plates, registration papers, personal information. How many other victims? We're still counting, but based on what we're finding, at least 30, probably more. Sarah felt the number hit her like a physical blow. 30 people, 30 families she did this to. We're reaching out to potential victims now, trying to match items to reports. Most of them probably didn't even realize they'd been targeted. They just thought they'd lost things, or that they'd been towed legitimately. Webb pulled up a photo. We found this in her storage unit. The screen showed rows of shelves containing purses, laptops, tablets, cameras, all neatly organized, tagged with dates and locations. She kept them, Sarah stared at the image, like trophies. More like inventory. We think she was selling them, but slowly, kept most of it to fence when she needed quick cash. Webb scrolled through more photos. Your laptop is here, your purse. We'll need to keep them for evidence, but you'll get everything back eventually. I don't want them back. The words came out harsh. I don't want anything she touched. I just want... Sarah stopped, not even sure what she wanted. Justice, revenge, for this day to have never happened. She's going to do serious time, Webb said. The DA's already talking about stacking charges. With the pattern of behavior we're documenting, she could be looking at 15 to 20 years. 20 years, Denise would be in her 50s when she got out. Luna would be in college, an entire lifespan compressed into punishment. Sarah should have felt satisfied. Instead, she felt hollow. Ms. Mendoza, Webb said carefully. I have to ask, the hospital badge, did Ms. Kowalski use it? Did she access the hospital? Sarah's blood turned to ice. I don't know. I came straight to the parking lot when I saw the video. I didn't think. We're checking with hospital security now. But if she did use your credentials to access the facility, if she stole medication or supplies or patient information, you could be held liable. No, the word came out as a whisper. No, that's not. I'm the victim here. She stole from me. And if she used your stolen ID to commit additional crimes, you'll need to document everything. File reports. Prove you weren't negligent in securing your credentials. Webb's expression was sympathetic but firm. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you for what's coming. This case is bigger than one theft. It's going to have ripples. Sarah clutched Luna tighter, her daughter's weight the only solid thing in a world that had turned to quicksand. She'd left her car for 5 minutes. 5 minutes to run into work, 5 minutes of being late, 5 minutes of bad luck and worse timing. And now her entire life was unraveling. I need to call my supervisor, Sarah said. I need to explain. Use my phone, Webb offered. Your phone was in the purse, right? Right, Sarah didn't even have her phone. She took Webb's offered cell and dialed St. Mary's with shaking fingers. Employee Services, this is Margaret. Margaret, it's Sarah Mendoza. I need to speak to Dr. Chen. It's urgent. Sarah, you're supposed to be on shift right now. I know, I was robbed. I'm at the police station. My hospital badge was stolen and I need to report it immediately. Silence on the other end. Then, hold please. The wait felt eternal. Luna stirred in Sarah's arms, making small, sleepy sounds. Finally, Dr. Chen's clipped voice came on the line. Sarah, Margaret says you were robbed. Yes, in the pool parking lot. Someone broke into my car, stole my purse and laptop and hospital badge. I'm filing a police report now, but I wanted to let you know immediately in case someone uses your credentials to access the hospital. Dr. Chen's tone was arctic. Do you realize the liability you've exposed us to? The potential HIPAA violations if patient data is compromised. I was the victim here, Sarah's voice rose, causing Luna to whimper. Someone committed a crime against me. I didn't do anything wrong. You left your hospital badge in an unsecured vehicle. That violates policy section 732, which you signed acknowledgement of during orientation. Papers rustled on the other end. I'm putting you on administrative leave pending investigation. You're suspending me. I need this job, I need. You should have thought of that before leaving your credentials unsecured. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. Sarah stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her entire world crumbling around her. No job, no money, no way to pay rent or daycare or food or anything. Because of 5 minutes and one desperate woman in a parking lot. Webb gently took his phone back. I'm sorry, I know that's not what you wanted to hear. I need to go, Sarah said, her voice distant. I need to figure out, I need to. She couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't know what she needed to do. Everything felt impossible. We can have an officer drive you home, Webb offered. I don't have a home. The words came out before Sarah could stop them. I mean I do, but I can't pay for it now. I can't pay for anything. Patricia appeared in the doorway. Sarah, let's sit down, let's figure this out. But there was nothing to figure out. Sarah had been robbed of more than her possessions. She'd been robbed of her security, her job, her sense of safety in the world. And the woman who'd done it was sitting in a cell down the hall, probably not even comprehending the full scope of destruction she'd caused. Sarah looked down at Luna, still sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the fact that her entire world had just been upended. I want to see her, Sarah said suddenly. Who? Patricia asked. The woman who did this, Denise, I want to see her. Webb and Patricia exchanged glances. That's not a good idea, Webb said. You're both going to be part of a court case. Any interaction now could complicate things. I don't care, I want 5 minutes, that's all. 5 minutes like the 5 minutes she took from me. Sarah. Please, Sarah met Webb's eyes. I need to understand, I need to know why. Why me, why today, why any of it? I need her to see what she did. After a long moment, Webb sighed. 5 minutes supervised, and if she agrees to it. She'll agree, Sarah said with certainty. Because Denise wasn't a monster. She was something worse. A human being who'd made terrible choices and destroyed lives without even meaning to. And Sarah needed her to understand exactly what those choices had cost. The meeting room was smaller than the interrogation room, more neutral. A table, 4 chairs, no windows. Detective Webb stood by the door, arms crossed, while Patricia sat in the corner with Luna, who was finally awake and eating crackers. Denise was brought in wearing handcuffs. She looked smaller somehow, diminished, her confident swagger from the parking lot completely gone. When she saw Sarah, something flickered across her face, shame, maybe, or recognition of the reckoning she'd been avoiding. "Sit down," Webb said. Denise sat, Sarah sat across from her. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. "You wanted to see me," Denise finally said. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "Why?" "Because I want you to understand what you did," Sarah said quietly. "Not just the theft, not just the crime, what you actually did to my life." "I know I stole your things." "No, listen." Sarah's voice cut through the room like a blade. "I'm a single mother. Luna's father left when she was 6 months old. Decided fatherhood wasn't for him, moved to another state, stopped paying child support. I work 60-hour weeks as an RN, overnight shifts most of the time because that's what's available, trying to save enough to eventually go back for my BSN so I can get better hours and better pay. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment that costs $1,700 a month, cheap for the area, expensive for me. I drive a 10-year-old car with a check engine light I ignore because I can't afford the repair. I have $80,000 in student loans with interest that makes sure I'll never actually pay them off." Denise stared at the table. "Every single dollar matters in my life," Sarah continued. "I budget down to the cent. I know exactly how much my groceries cost, how much gas I'll need, which bills I can pay late and which ones I can't. I clip coupons. I buy generic everything. I haven't bought myself new clothes in 2 years. Everything goes to Luna, to keeping us afloat, to surviving." "I'm sorry," Denise whispered. "I'm not done." Sarah's hands were shaking, but her voice remained steady. "You stole $200 from my wallet. That was Luna's daycare payment for next week. You stole my laptop, which had all my nursing school notes, my resume, applications I'd been working on for better positions. You stole my hospital badge, which led to me being put on administrative leave. No badge, no work. No work, no money. No money, no rent. No rent, no home." Denise's head came up. "They fired you." "Suspended, pending investigation to see if you used my credentials to access the hospital. Whether you did or not, they're going to find a reason to let me go. I was already on thin ice for missing shifts because of childcare issues. This gives them all the excuse they need." "But you were the victim." "Doesn't matter. Hospital policy says I'm responsible for my credentials at all times. I left my badge in my car, which means I violated policy, which means they have grounds to terminate." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "So congratulations. In 5 minutes, you didn't just steal my wallet. You stole my job, my apartment, my future." Denise looked like she might be sick. "I didn't know, I didn't think." "That's the problem, isn't it? You didn't think. You saw a target, a mark, an easy score. You didn't see a person. You didn't see a struggling mother trying to keep her head above water. You just saw opportunity." "What do you want from me?" Denise's voice broke. "An apology. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but sorry doesn't fix anything, does it?" "No, it doesn't." Sarah leaned forward. "But here's what I want you to understand. You're going to jail. The detective told me you could be looking at 15 to 20 years based on all the other thefts they're finding. That's a long time. That's most of your life gone." "I know. But here's the thing, you'll get out eventually. You'll serve your time, and then one day you'll walk out of prison. Your debt to society will be paid, legally speaking. You'll start over, build something new, maybe even become a better person." Denise watched Sarah warily, sensing there was more coming. "But me," Sarah's voice dropped. "I don't get to start over. I don't get time off for good behavior. I'm living the consequences of your choices right now today, and I'll be living them next month and next year and maybe for the rest of my life. Because you know what happens to nurses who lose their jobs. Word spreads. Other hospitals check references. Having an incident involving stolen credentials on your record, even if you were the victim, that's a red flag. It suggests carelessness, liability, risk." "That's not fair." "Nothing about this is fair." Sarah's voice rose, then dropped again as Luna made a concerned sound. "You took 5 minutes to destroy my life. And when you get out of prison, when your debt is paid, you'll still have more freedom, more opportunities, more hope than I have right now, because I'll still be digging out of the hole you put me in." Denise's hands were shaking in their cuffs. "What do you want me to do? I can't undo it. I can't give you back what I took." "I know. That's why I needed to see you." Because I needed you to look at me and understand that I'm not just a police report or a case number. I'm a human being whose life you destroyed. I'm a mother who's going to have to explain to her 2-year-old why we're moving, why mommy's home all the time now, why we can't afford things anymore. Sarah stood. The meeting was over. She'd said what she needed to say. I hope prison teaches you something, she said quietly. I hope you come out better, because if you come out the same person who broke into my car today, then those 20 years will have been wasted. And that would be the real tragedy, all this pain, all this destruction for nothing. She walked to the door where Patricia waited with Luna. At the threshold, Sarah paused and looked back. For what it's worth, I forgive you. Denise's head snapped up, shock written across her face. Not because you deserve it, Sarah continued, but because I can't carry the weight of having you on top of everything else you've already loaded onto me. Forgiveness isn't for you, it's for me, so I can move forward without this anger eating me alive. She left before Denise could respond, before her own composure could crack completely. In the hallway, she accepted Luna from Patricia and held her daughter close, breathing in the smell of baby shampoo and crackers. That was brave, Patricia said softly. That was necessary, Sarah corrected. I needed her to see me to understand. Do you think she did? Sarah looked back at the closed door of the meeting room, where Denise sat alone with the full weight of her choices finally crashing down on her. I think she's starting to. 6 hours later, Sarah sat in her apartment's parking lot, Luna asleep in the backseat again, and stared at her phone. The bank had already flagged the fraudulent charges on her credit cards, $347 at a gas station, $892 at an electronics store, $234 at a grocery store. All in the 2-hour window before the cards were reported stolen. All charges she'd now have to dispute, which would take weeks, during which her already maxed-out cards would be unusable. Her voicemail had 3 messages, one from her landlord asking about next week's rent, one from Luna's daycare confirming payment arrangements, one from her mother in Colorado whose voice-to-text transcription read, "Call me something wrong with your credit card tried to buy groceries." Sarah didn't have the energy to call anyone back. She just sat there, watching the sun set behind the apartment complex, watching her neighbors come home from work to lives that hadn't imploded today. Her phone buzzed, an email from the hospital's HR department. Dear Ms. Mendoza, following the incident of October 26, 2025, and pursuant to Hospital Policy 732 regarding credential security, you are hereby placed on administrative leave without pay, effective immediately. Your hospital badge has been deactivated. A hearing will be scheduled within 30 days to determine your employment status moving forward. Please return all hospital property, uniforms, equipment, parking pass, to the HR office within 48 hours. Sincerely, Margaret Chen, Employee Services. Without pay, Sarah read the words 3 times, hoping they'd change. They didn't. She did the math in her head. Rent was due in 5 days, $1,700. Daycare, $400. Car insurance, $150. Phone, $80. Groceries, $300 if she was very careful. Utilities, $200. Student loan minimum payment, $450. Total, $3,280. Savings account balance, $247. The numbers didn't work. They'd barely been working before, and now they were impossible. Sarah could call her mother, ask for help. But her mother lived on Social Security and a small pension, barely making her own ends meet. Sarah could try to find a new job, but who would hire a nurse on administrative leave for a credential security violation? She could apply for emergency assistance, but that would take weeks to process, if she even qualified. She could give up. The thought came unbidden, seductive in its simplicity. She could stop fighting. Could let the eviction happen, let the car be repossessed, let the whole fragile house of cards collapse. Take Luna to a shelter, start completely over from nothing. The thought lasted about 3 seconds before Luna made a small sound in her sleep, and Sarah's resolve hardened into something like steel. No, she'd figure this out. She'd find a way. She always did. Sarah pulled out her phone and started making calls. Her mother first, because pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. Then a friend from nursing school who worked at a different hospital. Then legal aid to ask about wrongful termination and victim compensation. Then, after 20 minutes of being transferred between departments, she reached the prosecutor's office handling Denise's case. Victim Services, this is Josh. Hi, my name is Sarah Mendoza. I'm the victim in the Denise Kowalski theft case. I need to know about restitution. Let me pull up your file. Keyboard sounds. Okay, I see your case here. Ms. Kowalski is being charged with multiple counts of grand theft, breaking and entering, possession of burglary tools, and child endangerment. The DA is also looking at additional charges related to identity theft and— I don't care about the charges, Sarah interrupted. I need to know when I'll get my money back. The cash she stole, the cost to replace my laptop, the wages I'm losing because of her. When do I get restitution? Josh's pause told Sarah everything she needed to know. Restitution is ordered at sentencing, which could be months away. And even then, payment is typically structured over time, depending on the defendant's ability to pay. In cases like this, where the defendant is incarcerated and has limited income. So you're saying I'll never see that money. I'm saying it's unlikely you'll receive full restitution in a timely manner. The court can order it, but enforcement is difficult. Sarah closed her eyes. Okay, thank you. There are victim compensation funds you can apply for. I'll look into it. She hung up before Josh could offer more useless information. Luna woke with a whimper. Sarah unbuckled her and pulled her into the front seat, cradling her daughter against her chest. It's okay, baby, she murmured. We're okay, we're going to be okay. But she didn't know if that was true. For the first time in her life, Sarah genuinely didn't know if she could keep that promise. Her phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. This is Detective Webb. Wanted to let you know we recovered your laptop and purse from Kowalski's storage unit. We'll need them for evidence, but wanted you to know they're safe. Also, hospital security confirmed your badge was never used. Hope that helps. Sarah felt a tiny bit of tension release. At least Denise hadn't added identity theft to the list of damages. At least the hospital couldn't claim additional security breaches. But it wasn't enough. It was nowhere near enough. Sarah sat in her car, holding Luna, watching the stars come out over the parking lot, and tried to figure out how to survive the next 30 days. She was still sitting there, no closer to answers, when her phone rang. Ms. Mendoza, this is Catherine Price. I'm an attorney with the Meadowbrook Community Legal Center. Detective Webb gave me your number. I hear you might need some help. Catherine Price's office was cluttered with case files and smelled like strong coffee and determination. She was in her mid-40s, with gray streaking through her dark hair and glasses perpetually sliding down her nose. Sarah sat across from her, Luna coloring on a pad at her feet, and listened to Catherine lay out options. The good news, Catherine said, flipping through Sarah's paperwork, is that you have documentation for everything. Police report, hospital policy violations, financial damages. The bad news is that none of it matters if Denise Kowalski has no assets. So I'm just screwed. Sarah had stopped crying about 3 hours ago, now she just felt numb. Not necessarily. We can go after her through several avenues. Civil suit for damages, victim compensation fund, possibly even a class action if we can organize the other victims. Catherine made notes on a legal pad. But I'll be honest with you, getting blood from a stone is difficult. Kowalski's truck is being repossessed. She's 3 months behind on rent. Her bank accounts have less than $40 combined. Even if we win a judgment, collection is going to be nearly impossible. What about the hospital? They suspended me for being robbed. That's trickier. Hospital policy is pretty clear about credential security. They can argue you violated policy by leaving your badge accessible. Catherine held up a hand as Sarah started to protest. I know. You were the victim, but legally they have grounds. We could fight it, but it would be expensive and time-consuming, and there's no guarantee we'd win. So nobody's responsible. Nobody has to make this right. I didn't say that. Catherine leaned back in her chair. Here's what I'm thinking. We build a case that's bigger than just you. Webb says they've identified at least 30 other victims over the past 2 years. If we can organize them, document the systematic nature of Kowalski's operation, show the full scope of damage she caused, that gets media attention. Media attention means public pressure. Public pressure means the DA takes this seriously, pushes for maximum sentencing, and makes a spectacle of restitution orders. But you just said restitution orders don't matter if she can't pay. True, but there are other options. The state has a victim compensation fund precisely for cases like this. It's bureaucratic and slow, but it exists. If we can demonstrate your damages and show that the perpetrator has no ability to pay, you might qualify for emergency funds. It won't be everything, but it could be enough to keep you housed while you find new employment. Sarah felt a tiny spark of hope. How do I apply? I'll help you, but Sarah, I need you to understand. This is going to be a fight. It's going to take time and energy and emotional labor you probably don't feel like you have right now. You're going to have to relive this trauma over and over as we build the case. You're going to have to be the face of this prosecution, the story that makes people care. Are you up for that? Sarah looked down at Luna, who was drawing something that might have been a flower or might have been an explosion. Her daughter was oblivious to the fact that their lives hung in the balance. Oblivious to the eviction notice that would probably come next week, to the job loss, to the financial devastation. I don't have a choice, Sarah said quietly. I have to fight for her. Good, Catherine smiled. Then let's get to work. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood outside the courthouse, cameras pointed at her face, and tried not to throw up. Catherine had arranged a press conference to coincide with Denise's arraignment. Behind Sarah stood 11 other victims, all that Catherine had managed to track down and convince to participate. 11 people who'd lost wallets, laptops, jewelry, peace of mind. 11 stories of parking lots and broken windows and violated trust. Catherine stepped up to the microphone cluster. Thank you all for coming. Today, Denise Kowalski will be arraigned on 47 counts of theft, breaking and entering, and related charges spanning the past 2 years. She operated a systematic scheme, targeting vulnerable people in parking lots across 3 counties, stealing from families, workers, anyone she deemed an easy mark. The reporters scribbled notes, cameras rolling. Sarah felt dizzy. But this isn't just about the criminal charges, Catherine continued. This is about a broken system that leaves victims to fend for themselves. Every person standing behind me has suffered financial hardship because of Ms. Kowalski's actions. Some have lost jobs, some have been evicted, some are still recovering, and when they turned to the system for help, they found bureaucracy, delays, and indifference. Catherine turned to Sarah. Ms. Mendoza is going to share her story. Sarah stepped forward, Luna on her hip because she hadn't been able to find childcare for this. The cameras zoomed in. Sarah took a shaky breath. 3 weeks ago, I stopped at a parking lot for 5 minutes on my way to work. I was a nurse at St. Mary's Medical Center. My daughter Luna was asleep in her car seat. I thought she'd be safe for the few minutes it would take me to run inside and clock in. Sarah's voice wavered but held. A woman broke into my car while my baby slept. She stole my wallet, my laptop, my hospital credentials. And when she realized she'd been caught on the baby monitor camera, she tried to take my daughter. Gasps from the reporters. This was news to them. The baby angle hadn't been in the initial reports. I lost my job because of the stolen credentials. I lost my income, my ability to pay rent, my sense of safety in the world. I'm a single mother with student loan debt and a 2-year-old to support, and in 5 minutes, one person's greed destroyed everything I'd built. Sarah's hands were shaking, but she forced herself to continue. The criminal justice system will punish Denise Kowalski. She'll go to prison, serve her time, pay her debt to society. But what about my debt? What about the hole she left in my life, the financial devastation, the trauma? Who pays for that? She looked directly into the cameras. I'm asking the DA's office to take this case seriously, to push for maximum sentencing and meaningful restitution. I'm asking the state to reform the victim compensation system so that people like me don't have to wait months for emergency assistance. And I'm asking every person watching this to remember, crime has real victims, real people with real lives that are shattered by someone else's bad choices. Luna chose that moment to wave at the cameras, and despite everything, Sarah felt herself smile. This is who I'm fighting for, not just justice for me, but a future for her. A future where 5 minutes of bad luck doesn't destroy everything. Catherine stepped back up to the microphone to field questions, and Sarah retreated to the courthouse steps. The other victims gathered around her, offering support, sharing their own stories in hushed voices. She stole my grandmother's wedding ring, one woman said. I'd left it in my car while I ran into Target, 70 years of family history gone. I lost my job too, a man added. Company laptop with client information. Even though it was stolen, they blamed me for having it in the car. Story after story, damage after damage, all from one woman's systematic predation. The courthouse doors opened, and Denise was led inside in handcuffs and orange scrubs. She looked smaller than Sarah remembered, almost fragile. When she saw the crowd of victims and cameras, she tried to turn away, but the deputies kept her moving forward. For just a moment, Denise's eyes met Sarah's. Sarah saw shame there and fear and something that might have been regret. But she also saw defiance, a stubborn core that still believed she'd just been unlucky, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, that circumstances had forced her hand. Denise didn't understand. After 3 weeks in jail, after being confronted with the full scope of her damage, after having her freedom stripped away, she still didn't truly understand what she'd done. Maybe she never would. The arraignment took 20 minutes. Denise's public defender, an exhausted-looking woman named Jennifer Ortiz, entered not guilty pleas on all counts, though everyone in the courtroom knew it was just procedure. The evidence was overwhelming. The baby monitor video alone was damning. The judge set bail at $50,000. Denise couldn't make it. She'd be staying in jail until trial. Catherine guided Sarah out of the courthouse as reporters shouted questions. "No more comments today," Catherine said firmly. "Ms. Mendoza needs time with her daughter." In Catherine's car, finally alone, Sarah let herself collapse. "I thought I'd feel better after that. I thought publicly telling my story would help somehow." "It does help," Catherine said gently. "Just not instantly. What you did today, that starts conversations. That puts pressure on the system. That makes it harder for the DA to offer Kowalski a sweet plea deal." "I don't want her to get a deal. I want her to serve every single day she deserves." Catherine pulled into traffic. "I understand, but the justice system isn't about what we want. It's about what we can prove and what the system can manage. Courts are overwhelmed. Jails are overcrowded. Most cases plea out because there's no other way to handle the volume. So she'll get off easy. She'll get consequences, maybe not as severe as we'd like, but there will be accountability." Catherine glanced at Sarah. "And in the meantime, I got some good news while you were speaking. The Victim Compensation Fund approved your emergency application. It's not much, $3,000, but it should help with rent." Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. $3,000. It would cover 2 months of rent, plus groceries, plus the car insurance she'd been terrified of losing. It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was enough to breathe. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for being willing to stand up and tell your story. Half the battle is getting victims to participate. Most people just want to move on, forget it happened. You're brave for doing this." "I'm not brave, I'm desperate." Brave and desperate aren't mutually exclusive. 2 months later, Sarah sat in a different courtroom for Denise's sentencing. The trial had been short. Denise's lawyer had negotiated a plea deal. Guilty on 32 counts of grand theft and related charges. The other 15 counts dropped. Recommended sentence, 12 to 15 years. Sarah watched Denise stand before the judge. 2 months in jail had changed her. She was thinner, harder somehow. Prison was already remaking her into something different. "Does the defendant wish to make a statement before sentencing?" the judge asked. Denise nodded. She turned to face the gallery, where Sarah sat with Catherine and 4 other victims who'd made the time to attend. "I'm sorry," Denise said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I know that's not enough. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need to say it. I was desperate and selfish, and I hurt people who didn't deserve it. I told myself I had no choice, that I was just surviving, but that was a lie. I always had choices. I just made the wrong ones." She looked directly at Sarah. "Ms. Mendoza, what I did to you and your daughter, there's no excuse. You were trying to take care of your family, and I made your life harder. You lost your job because of me. You lost your sense of safety. I can't give any of that back. All I can do is promise that I'll use my time in prison to become someone different, someone who doesn't prey on other people's vulnerability." It was a good speech, probably coached by her lawyer, but Sarah thought she detected genuine remorse beneath the practiced words. The judge was less impressed. "Ms. Kowalski, you operated a systematic criminal enterprise for over 2 years. You targeted vulnerable individuals, invaded their privacy, stole their property, and in at least one case endangered a child. You've shown a pattern of predatory behavior and a willingness to exploit others for personal gain." The judge looked down at her notes. "I've read the victim impact statements. I've reviewed the evidence, and I've considered your lack of prior convictions and your expressed remorse. Taking everything into account, I'm sentencing you to 14 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 9 years. Additionally, you're ordered to pay restitution totaling $147,000 to be divided among the victims based on documented damages. 14 years, 9 before parole eligibility. Sarah did the math. Denise would be 48 when she first became eligible for release. Luna would be 11. Sarah would be 36, hopefully with her life rebuilt. This court is adjourned. The deputies moved to take Denise away. She looked back once more at Sarah, and Sarah saw acceptance in her eyes now. This was real. This was happening. The consequences were finally here. Sarah felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, not relief. Just a hollow sense of closure on one chapter of a story that was still being written. Outside the courthouse, Catherine pulled Sarah aside. "I have news. One of the reporters who covered your press conference did a follow-up story. It got picked up nationally, went viral on social media. And St. Mary's Medical Center got buried in negative publicity. Comments about how they suspended a robbery victim, articles about hospital workers' rights, think pieces about corporate indifference." Catherine was grinning. "Their PR department called me this morning. They want to settle." Sarah's heart jumped. Settle what? "They're offering you full back pay for the suspension period, an official apology, reinstatement with no black marks on your record, and a $25,000 settlement for emotional distress. In exchange, you agree not to pursue legal action for wrongful termination." $25,000, more than Sarah made in half a year. Enough to catch up on bills, rebuild savings, maybe even buy a reliable car. "Do I have to go back to work there?" "No, reinstatement means they'll give you a clean employment record if you apply elsewhere. You don't have to actually return." "Then I accept." Catherine's grin widened. "I thought you might. I'll have the papers drawn up, should be finalized within a week." Sarah picked up Luna, who'd been playing with blocks in the courthouse lobby. "Did you hear that, baby? We're going to be okay. We're actually going to be okay." Luna patted her mother's cheek with a chubby hand. "Okay, Mama." 6 months after the parking lot incident, Sarah started her first shift at Mercy General Hospital across town. Better hours, better pay, better childcare facilities on site. The settlement money had allowed her to take the time to find the right position rather than desperately grabbing the first offer. Luna was thriving in a new daycare program, finally in a facility that Sarah could trust completely. They'd moved to a slightly bigger apartment, still nothing fancy, but Luna had her own room now. The student loans were still crushing. The financial stress hadn't disappeared. But Sarah could breathe again. She could plan more than a week ahead. She could start to believe in a future that wasn't just survival. The baby monitor camera sat on Sarah's dresser at home, retired. She'd bought a new one, different brand, different model. But she couldn't bring herself to throw away the old one. It was evidence of her survival, proof that she'd made it through the worst moment of her life and come out the other side. Sometimes, late at night when Luna was asleep and the apartment was quiet, Sarah would think about Denise. 9 years before parole eligibility. The first few years would be the hardest, everyone said. The adjustment, the reality, the grinding awareness of how much time stretched ahead. Sarah wondered if Denise was becoming someone different in prison, like she'd promised. Or if she was just becoming harder, more bitter, learning to survive in an environment that rewarded violence and manipulation. Sarah hoped for the former, not because Denise deserved redemption, she wasn't sure anyone deserved it, but because the alternative was too depressing. All that pain, all that destruction for nothing. A human life wasted in bitterness and regret. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. Restitution check came through. Your portion is $8,400. Not everything you lost, but it's something. Victory Fund should have it deposited by Friday. $8,400, more than Sarah had expected to see. Denise must have had some assets seized, or maybe family had contributed, or the state had supplemented from other funds. Sarah didn't really care where it came from. She was just grateful. She texted back, "Thank you for everything. Couldn't have done this without you." Catherine's response was immediate. "You did the hard part. I just helped with the paperwork. Proud of you." Sarah set down her phone and looked around her small apartment. Luna's toys scattered across the floor, dishes in the sink from dinner, her nursing bag packed for tomorrow's shift, the ordinary chaos of a life in progress. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was hers, rebuilt from the wreckage of that parking lot afternoon. And that was enough. 5 years later, Denise Kowalski sat across from the parole board, trying not to let her hands shake. 4 years into her sentence, and this was her first review. She wasn't eligible for release yet, but the hearing would determine her status, her privileges, her chances when the actual eligibility date came. "You've completed your GID," one board member noted, reading from her file. "And you're enrolled in vocational training for HVAC certification." "Yes, ma'am, I'm learning a legitimate trade, something I can use when I get out." "You've also been leading a support group for first-time offenders, teaching them about accountability and making better choices." The board member looked up. "That's commendable." "It's necessary," Denise said. "I spent 2 years in here telling myself I was just unlucky, that circumstances forced me to steal. But that's garbage. I had choices, I made bad ones, and if I can help even one person recognize that before they end up where I am, then maybe," she trailed off, "maybe it means something." The board members exchanged glances. "There's a letter in your file," another member said, "from one of your victims, Sarah Mendoza. Do you remember her?" Denise's throat tightened. "The nurse with the baby? Yes, I remember. She writes that she doesn't oppose your eventual parole. She says that while she'll never forget what you did, she believes in the possibility of rehabilitation and growth. She hopes you're using your time inside to become someone different." The board member set down the paper. "That's a remarkable amount of grace from someone you hurt deeply." "It is," Denise agreed quietly, "more than I deserve." "Perhaps, but the question before us isn't what you deserve. It's what you've done with the time you've been given. Have you grown? Have you changed? Are you still the person who broke into cars and stole from vulnerable people?" Denise thought about the answer carefully. "I don't think change is a switch you flip. I don't get to wake up one day and declare myself reformed. But I'm not the person I was 5 years ago. That person was desperate and selfish and refused to see her victims as real people. Now I see them every day. I carry them with me. Ms. Mendoza and her daughter and all the other people I hurt." "And when you're released, what then?" "I'll find work. Legitimate work. I'll pay back every cent of restitution I owe, even if it takes the rest of my life. And I'll keep telling my story to anyone who will listen, because maybe it'll stop someone else from making the same mistakes." The hearing concluded with no immediate decision. Denise was led back to her cell, where her cellmate was reading a worn paperback. "How'd it go?" the cellmate asked. "I don't know. I told the truth. We'll see if that's enough." Denise lay on her bunk and stared at the ceiling. 4 years down, at least 5 to go before she could even hope for release. And after that, a lifetime of carrying the weight of what she'd done. But Sarah's letter had given her something unexpected, permission to hope. Not for forgiveness, she'd never ask for that, but for the possibility that people could change, that consequences, however harsh, could be educational rather than just punitive. That maybe, someday, she could look in the mirror and see someone worth saving. It wasn't redemption, but it was a start. Present day. Sarah walked Luna to her first day of second grade, both of them nervous for different reasons. Luna because everything was new, new classroom, new teacher, new kids. Sarah because letting go was always hard. "Remember," Sarah said, kneeling down to Luna's level, "if anyone makes you uncomfortable, you tell the teacher right away. You don't wait. You don't worry about being polite. You speak up immediately." "I know, Mama. You tell me every day." Sarah smiled despite herself. Maybe she was overprotective. Maybe that parking lot 5 years ago had broken something in her ability to trust the world. But Luna was safe, healthy, thriving. That was what mattered. "I love you, baby. Have a great day." "Love you too." Luna bounced toward the classroom door, already spotting potential friends. Sarah watched until Luna disappeared inside, then checked her phone. An email from Catherine. "Thought you'd want to know. Kowalski was denied early parole yesterday. Board said she's making progress but needs more time. Next hearing in 2 years." 2 more years, at minimum. Sarah tried to analyze her feelings about that and came up empty. She didn't want Denise to suffer needlessly, but she also wasn't ready to think of her walking free yet. Maybe in 2 years, maybe in 5, maybe never. Sarah's phone rang. Her supervisor at Mercy General, probably checking that she'd be on time for her shift. "This is Sarah." "Sarah, hi, it's Marcus from HR. Do you have a minute?" Her stomach dropped. HR rarely called with good news. Sure, what's up? The board of directors reviewed your employment file. They were impressed with your work over the past 5 years, your dedication to patient care, your leadership in the nursing staff. He paused. They'd like to offer you the position of nursing supervisor for the pediatric ward. It's a significant promotion, better hours, substantial raise, and it would allow you to shape policy and mentor newer nurses. Sarah's breath caught. Yes, absolutely. When do I start? 2 weeks. We'll arrange coverage for your current position. Congratulations, Sarah. This is well-deserved. She hung up and stood in the school parking lot, tears streaming down her face. Not sad tears, not even happy tears exactly. Just the overwhelming release of 5 years of fighting, surviving, refusing to give up. She'd made it, against all odds, through all the setbacks, despite every obstacle that parking lot afternoon had thrown at her. She'd made it to the other side. Sarah got in her car, a newer Honda, reliable and paid off, and drove to work. She passed the Meadowbrook Community Pool on the way. The parking lot looked smaller than she remembered, less threatening. Just asphalt and painted lines, ordinary and innocent. She didn't avoid it anymore, didn't take the long route, didn't let that place have power over her. Because in the end, Denise had taken 5 minutes from Sarah's life, 5 minutes of violation and theft and trauma. But Sarah had taken everything else back. Her career, her safety, her daughter's future, her own sense of control. The consequences of that afternoon would ripple forward forever, for both women in different ways. But Sarah had decided which direction those ripples would flow. Not toward bitterness and fear, but toward growth and resilience and hope. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. And that, more than any court sentence or restitution payment, was the real justice.